instead of relying on listening to the exportation of the music industries and feeding us with what they think we should be listening to, why not have a more personalized approach?
The future of music. How is music and innovation going to work together?
Hello, I am Henry Ladewig. Welcome to the Karajan Institute and welcome Christian Blakely today here at the Karajan Institute to our today's interview session. It's great to have you here. How are you?
Yeah, so this is a great place. This is my second time in Salzburg, so second time within the Karajan Institute, innovation. So this is great.
Yeah, cool to have you here. Christian, my very first question is, what exactly are you doing? Try to explain it, for example, to my 6-year-old daughter. What are you doing?
Yeah, so, well, we all know that music is a big part of everyone's life. We see these innovations in what's called artificial intelligence. It's something that is also going to be impacting life. And so, personally, as a pianist, I always thought that there's a lot to be done in connecting the two, right? Putting artificial intelligence into music, into piano music specifically, but just music in general. So what I'm trying to do right now, within a few research projects, is to generate capabilities of how humans can interact with music and vice versa. How does music affect us? And how can artificial intelligence play a role in building the bridge between music and human behavioral, human feeling, all these things. So that's what I'm currently doing.
Yeah, great, interesting. And what would you say? Are you more an artist or are you more a coder? What is your heart beating for?
Well, to be honest with you, I think coding is an art form, right? I mean, just like a painter uses paintbrush and colors, I mean, a coder uses a specific language, libraries, algorithms, data structures. At the end of the day, it really is an art. So what I'm trying to do is make it not really a science, but make it more of an art form. There's a huge creative capacity here. And so I think with a lot of the developments going on today, you have the freedom to work as an artist in this field, even though you're working with, you know, coding languages, right? So, but at the end of the day, it's still an art.
And a few weeks before, you have been at the Classical Music Hackathon. How did you hear about this event, and what was the reason for you to take part in this? Yeah,
so this was actually my first AI in music, well, music tech hackathon. And I heard about this through, we have a partnership with Red Bull Media. And they mentioned to me that there was going to be a music tech conference. Matthias is communicating with Red Bull Media. They said that I should take part in this hackathon. I think 2 weeks before it was scheduled, so I registered and I came here not expecting anything, and then saw the piano, and then my eyes lit up, and then I said, well, this is a great stage to do this on.
And did you have the opportunity to work with a Bösendorfer Inspire before, or was this
No, it's my first time, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then you showed me, a few weeks before we also chatted via WhatsApp, and you sent me a message and showed me your Bösendorfer in your new office in Zurich, right?
Yeah.
What is this about? Can you explain why are you so lucky and have a Bösendorfer in your office?
Well, so I'm a director of AI at PwC Switzerland, and one of the nice things about that is that it allows you to build innovation and research projects as well. So we have a project with Red Bull Media. They gave us, they loaned us, so it's on loan, a Bösendorfer disc clavier piano, basically the newest one, and we are currently developing a lot of the AI technologies that, well, at least that I'm working on right now. We're working with this piano, and we're going to be showcasing a lot of new things. Right now, I'm just currently developing a pipeline of different interactive features of it. So, so it's sponsored by Red Bull Media. It's on loan by them, and they gave us a certain budget to develop certain newer technologies.
Could you explain a little bit more what your code does and what did you invent?
Yeah. So. So going back a little bit, being a machine learning engineer, I've taken the liberty to develop a real-time learning and prediction technology. It's a machine learning development, if you want, that learns data in real time. So you have a sequence of data and you want to learn something about that, you want to make a prediction about it. This offers the capability of learning this data without knowing anything about the data first. So traditionally, in machine learning technologies, you have to provide a batch of training data. It learns something from that, makes outputs, corrects these outputs via some error process, backpropagates this information through, makes changes. So it can't really be done online. So if you wanted to know something about music, you'd have to put in a bunch of music, train it, and then give the outputs. Here what I did, I'm doing something completely different. I'm learning sequentially as I go along. So it knows nothing about the data. I get an observation, tries to make a prediction. It's going to be an awful prediction, but it still makes a prediction, and I correct it as I go along. So it corrects it using I'm not going to go into the details, but basically an encoding system that I've invented. And so I thought, well, might as well maybe apply this to music. You know, what could it do in music? This was probably just 2 months ago that I was doing this. And so I took a MIDI file. So what's the easiest way to get musical information in a computer? Well, obviously that's MIDI, right? So I took a MIDI file, and then, well, I need to somehow get this MIDI file structured in a way that I can read it in real time. You know, so I took, say, a certain section of the MIDI file, and I take all the notes and all the MIDI information in that, and I encode it, and then I make a prediction. So it's learning as it goes through this MIDI file. So it makes a prediction, and then it's going to be probably wrong, looks at the new notes, makes a prediction, updates, and so forth. So it's learning the piano in real time. So this code is this ecosystem that I built in Java that uses the Java MIDI file library. And I'm taking, so now I'm taking the MIDI file, and now I take the outputs and I put that through the MIDI system that's connected on the piano.
Okay.
So the piano now can read directly from the output that I give it.
Yeah, okay, I see. And then I saw on your video that you used your hands to somehow composing or recomposing.
Yeah, well, since we're at the Karajan Institute and he was a conductor, right, I thought it would be cool to, well, instead of conducting an orchestra, conduct a piano, right? So, so I've integrated the system that I built in Java, and I discovered that I'm not a big video game player, but I realized that there's this thing called the Xbox Kinect, right?
Yeah. And
the Xbox Kinect is actually a fascinating tool because it registers your skeleton in real time. So if it's registering your skeleton, it can take all your elbow movement, your hand movements, and that's a signal. Now I can take that information and give it to the inputs to my piano playing system.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you are building a kind of interface for people to be able to compose music with their bodies.
Exactly.
Right?
So you can, it's basically a system that you stand back and you can make gestures to the piano. So tempo is just, you know, given by your hand movement. The velocity of the notes being played is dependent on your hand level. So the higher I am, the harder it will be played.
Okay.
The velocity on the keystroke.
Yeah, yeah.
Pedal information is done with your right foot. So you want the pedal down, you just put your foot down, and you want the pedal up, you just keep your foot up.
Yeah.
And so there's other features that you can do as well with maybe your left hand. If you want to maybe make a tonality change, you can lower or raise your hand. Like if you want to go from D minor to F minor, you just raise your hand to another level, right? So, so it's completely interactive in that sense that you don't have to touch the piano to compose something. I mean, there's Kinect. The reason why Kinect is so nice is there's an open source Java API. So other systems have their own proprietary toolkits.
I didn't know that. And
I learned that at the hackathon. Actually, I didn't know any of this before the day of the presentation. So, but that's what hackathons are for, right? When I came to the hackathon, I knew a certain amount about what could be done for composing, real time, all this stuff. But when that's what's great about this music tech hackathons. When you go here, you're talking with 20, 30 other people that come from different backgrounds, have worked on other technologies, and I learned so much. I didn't know a lot of this stuff was even doable. And I came out of this hackathon, wow, there's actually so many things you can actually do. I learned about the Kinect. I learned about making this with some kind of virtual reality. There's integrating real-time toolkits with virtual reality, augmented reality. I mean, there's so many things that are possible, and so now it's exciting because I could learn from these people. I could take these ideas and integrate them into some of my own. So, the hackathon is a great thing.
And getting back to censoring the body and the movements of the body, you told me that you are working on that and also have the ideas to have other sensors on the body.
Yep.
And to that you don't need a Bösendorfer, right, or any piano device, but it would be enough to have a computer and a software, and then to have different sensors on the body, and then everybody could compose music.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is not just limited to a very expensive Bösendorfer disc clavier. This is also can be done just with a laptop. So the idea is that, not maybe outside of just hand gestures, why not take other sensors as well? Maybe biological sensors. So we all can. With a wearable Android fitness watch, you can register already information there from your heartbeat patterns, right? So if you want to, maybe why not, instead of composing music the old-fashioned way where you're sitting there trying out things with your hands, why not interact with that using your heartbeat information and some rule-based algorithms that can then take your biological data and maybe compose something in real time. So maybe along with hand gestures too. Maybe you can have a whole workout routine, right? You can do jumping jacks in front of your computer, and then it will produce music, right? So the idea is to explore the interaction of the human body with music, and doing that in any way possible, taking brain electroinformation, taking biological data, heartbeat data, temperature, all these things. So yeah, just trying to explore what are the capabilities of producing music. And maybe having it integrated into a system that you can just take on when you're jogging, for example. I know that there are applications like Spotify that can take your heartbeat information and find a piece that matches that. So I know that's available.
They measure the beat of your feet, your footsteps, right? Exactly.
So then we'll find a piece that is so that's one version of this where it takes already existing music. But why not take a step further and compose music relative to how you think, how your own personality is, for example.
Absolutely, and that from my point of view, that would empower more people, a lot of people that also never played an instrument by themselves, to be able to compose music. just by expressing what they are.
Yeah.
You know, you could also maybe you could have sensors that measures the brain waves and see what that comes out.
Yeah.
So
like having sensors that, and you can think like, well, I like, I'm in the mood for D minor, and then suddenly you could say, well, I'd like to switch that more to a happier, you know, tonality, maybe C major or A major. And just thinking this will change the tonality of the piece. And then using your heartbeat information, there's the capacity of composing something with that information is, I think, pretty endless.
Yes, it is. And speaking about all those devices, are there, as far as you know, are there already devices on the market that have an open API to use all the data?
I'm not that I'm aware of. So this is something that I'm just building from scratch on my own.
Yeah, but that might be very interesting also for those device producer to be open for this.
Yeah. So well, I'm currently working with Ableton Live for the actual music production for the piano. If I want to introduce piano in there. I'm using on the computer side, I'm using Keyscape for the piano VST, and then for any live performance, then I'm using any kind of MIDI attachment to a grand piano. So I have one at home, I use a Yamaha, and at work, the Bösendorfer.
I would like to know, what is classical music for you personally? And what is music for you personally?
Well, for me, it started out, I didn't grow up with it, so I didn't know anything about classical music until I was in college.
Really?
I started, my second year of college, I discovered Mozart. I had bought this 3 CD set called Set Your Life to Music. And it was Mozart for morning coffee, Mozart for midnight, and Mozart for studying. And so I would be studying with Mozart, and I found myself getting more into his music. I went out and bought all of his symphonies, for example. I'm sure some of them were recorded by Karajan. And so I kind of explored based off of Mozart, and I found that his music was so mathematically perfect that you could study with it, and it would just you see things differently. You start seeing things completely differently when you're studying. Because I studied mathematics and then went on to do a PhD in applied mathematics, and it was always present throughout the 10 years of my educational track at the 3 universities I was at. Classical music was a huge part of that. After I was getting into Mozart, my curiosity was there to look more into other composers, maybe the Romantic composers. So I got really into Franz Liszt. He was my favorite after Mozart, and then I started getting into piano, started learning piano, and you find that the more you listen to this stuff, the more you listen to piano music, that actually helps your ability to learn, at the piano. I mean, if you're sensitive to performance, if you're sensitive to the feeling, you can really pull a lot of information just from listening to it and put it in your own performances. So I think I was never someone who wanted to be technically correct at the piano. I wanted to be emotionally correct. Now, combining the two, music, coding, all this stuff, I mean, the possibilities are endless. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are doing really cool things. Dan Tepfer, who was also at the conference, right? He's doing really cool things with rule-based algorithms and music production. He's obviously a state-of-the-art jazz pianist, and when I saw him, I was just super inspired, So seeing these kinds of people, that's why I love these kinds of conferences. You see so many people out there. I mean, you could see stuff, on YouTube, Facebook, but when you see it in person, when you talk to them, it's something completely different. You get because you understand, because you see these perfect YouTube videos, whatever, and you see, well, that's the perfection of their craft. They're only showing the best of the best of the best,
Exactly.
Whereas if you see them in person, struggling, experimenting, you see at the behind the scenes, they're just like anyone else, They're just like, so why can't I do that too? So that's what, so seeing these interact, you know, seeing these people interact, talking with them, you know, that is much, I think that's a much more solid approach.
And it gives you a more realistic view on all these genius people, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's like, I mean, obviously, you know, an institution like a company like Google, they're also doing a lot of stuff in AI and music tech. I mean, they had just recently the Magenta project that they released that it can learn, so it could take an MP3 file and create a MIDI file out of that, which I thought that I've been using that. That's amazing. They also have, you know, they use deep learning to learn compositions. Like they learn on the entire collection of Bach music, and you can actually just, you know, compose just based on that. Now the difference there is that they're using state-of-the-art in deep learning. They're a company, right? They have a lab. They have everything. They're doing everything with huge amounts of funds, and they produce something, right? So whereas the approach that I'm taking is something that's doing it in real time. So you know nothing about the music. It knows nothing about the music, and you want to interact with it. Creating the interaction dialogue requires a real-time approach.
In just 3 words, Christian, what do you think will music in general be in the future?
So yeah, there's I mean, obviously music is in all our lives, and it's a very personal thing. Music is a very personal thing. So why not? And instead of relying on listening to the exportation of the music industries and feeding us with what they think we should be listening to, why not have a more personalized approach and have something that can, where your personal interests, your personal feelings on music can be incorporated in a more centralized way. It can be composed, can be adapted, could be listened to in a much more personalized way. So the approach that I want to explore is how you can do this in real time. How you can take your feelings in the moment. Maybe on a Saturday evening, you want to have something that's very in D minor, for example. You know, something that's you know, that hasn't been composed yet, and then suddenly you're thinking, and suddenly your piano starts playing, or your MP3 player will start to output music based on your feelings at that moment, and something that's completely personalized.
So thank you very much, Christian. It was great to have you here, and hope to see you again.
Yeah, definitely.
You've been watching to today's interview session here at the Karajan Institute, and goodbye and see you next time.